Well, good morning, John Neal here. It's Sunday the 5th of December 2021, and as you can see I'm in my workshop and I'm going to show you how I made this box. Well, first things first, let me pop my magic apron on. That was generally for the sign writing, but this is for some woodwork. This is my therapy room, by the way, and I just find doing the woodwork just keeps your mind off other things. And when you're planning international travel, there's a lot of things to do, a lot of hoops to get through. But I've made a number of these boxes and refined it down to this point. Well, here are some of the boxes I've made. I've got about 15 or 16 here. Some are for salt and pepper, some are for matches, and they've been great fun, but refining the design each time. I've also got one or two here. This is the latest one I've made, which I'm really quite pleased with. So that's the right height and the right size. I've also got here some iPhone holders, which are now, you can hold them there, or you can sit them a bit more upright. There you go. I'm really quite fascinated with some of these woods. I got this. There's a big chunk. I forget who gave it me now, but the pattern in the wood is really rather nice. There's a piece I took off the end, and look, the actual design here is superb. And when you get oil on it as well, and the finished box, it looks fantastic. So first thing to do is cut some strips of this to a thickness of just over a centimetre, because I'm going to bring it down to about 8mm, but that's on another machine. Right, that's now 9.1 mil. That'll do me fine. Right, a quick word about these power tools. They're absolutely brilliant. You could do this by hand, but it would take forever, and you can't get it this accurate either. So it really is a struggle without them. Table saw, brilliant. Cuts up to about 3 inches deep, which is great, and lots of other functions. I've had about 4 of these, and each one's been a better one than the one before. And yeah, it is a good idea to get really quite a nice one. The planer, life changer, really is. I use it so many times, and you can get down to quite about 5mm thin, but it really does a great job in tidying up pieces of wood. That's what it's for. And while I'm at it, this is the sander, which is absolutely brilliant too. And yeah, I'd be lost without that. But you do need to put a suction on it to keep the dust down. The only other thing I use on a regular basis is the bandsaw. Again, I've had 1 or 2 of these, and this one is not bad at all. It's not the biggest and the strongest, but it does the job. But you always need to keep another blade handy, because eventually they will break, and that's a new one on recently. Well, the next thing to do is to take this, which will be the sides, down to 4 centimetres, about 5.5 at the moment. So let's onto the table saw. Safety first, every time put these on. So there we are. Now that's down to 4. The edges don't matter too much at the moment, because I am going to sand them down when the box is all put together. Next job is to cut a groove all the way along here. And it so happens that the curve, that's the thickness of the blade, is exactly the size of the plywood that I'm going to use to go in the groove for the base, the bottom of the box. So set the table saw just so it snips in halfway into the and then about 1/2 centimetre from the edge. There we have it. Cut the full length. You have to check which side you want to be the outside, so that's the outside surface. It's nice and smooth, it's gone through the planer beautifully, and it's a very nice pattern. So that's going to be the sides of the box. There are one or two ways you can make the corners. This one, as you can see, is mitered, and that's pretty good to do, particularly on the table saw. You put the sled on, slide it backwards forward with the blade set over at 45 degrees. That works extremely well. Now you can see the plywood base neatly sort of slotted in there, literally slotted in. Now the other way, which I've done with this one, which adds a little bit of interest anyway, is in fact to just butt the corners together, no 45 degrees cut, and then the slots that I've just cut in show in these corners here. So I've filled them with a contrasting piece of wood, and those are on the side, so the box really fits and looks that way round, and I think that looks pretty good. It just adds a little bit of interest. Yeah. Right, now the next thing to do is to cut the two sides exactly the same, and you need 3 of these end pieces, obviously 2 here, and then another one that fits in, which will be exactly the same size as the other 2. So this one in the middle, same size. So you need 3. Make sure you've got enough wood, because it's surprising when you cut this to length how you quickly get through it. So I've got to work to this. Oh, and of course, once you made a handful of these, you realise that when you cut these side pieces, the length of them is inside, so the full width of the box is the length you're about to cut plus 2 widths of these as well, so it gives you a bit more leeway really. So now it's time for the sled. Put that right to the end, and made this is the bottom of it with some wax on it, 2 runners goes on here, and that is a very nice safe way of using the table saw to cut these accordingly to length. Right, I've marked the long side, so that will go there, the cut of this side of the blade. Don't touch that too much if you don't have to. Let's mark this, will make a perfect marker to make sure that they are exactly the same size. Clamp that on there, and don't forget the glasses. Right, 2 of these for starts. Always wait for that to stop. Don't do it, because it's very tempting to start working on here as a surface, and it's great to use, but don't do it while that's turning. Oh, no. Right, these 2 are now perfect size together, and you do need them dead on. Right, they're done. Now we need 3 out of this section, but don't forget that will be on the end of them. So let's see what we can manage here. Just measure it, don't forget the curve of that. So that's 14, 12, 3, 4. If I do that as 4, which I know is that mark there, that should do me. So these are 4 centimetres, 3 of them. Once my fingers start getting closer to the blade here, I'll use something with I've got this marl stick with a rubber end to it, and I'll hold that there. That's pushing against there and here. This down should be all nice and safe. So 3 of these needed. Here we go. Just to prove the point, check that that stopped, count all your fingers, still got them all, lovely, don't need that. Here's the 3. Right, where's the other 2 gone? Here we are. So what we have now are these 2 sides, these 2 bases, that will go there and there. That will go the other end. And this one I'll cut with a hole in, a groove, to take the spoon, that will go in the middle. The spoons, by the way, bought a bag of spoons, lovely little things, not expensive at all, and that will neatly fit in there to hold the salt and pepper. Right. Okay, these are the sides, this is the end, this is the material for the base, the plywood. It so happens that's cut to length already, and you'll notice that the plywood floor of this, the base, is short because the end pieces are going to fit that way, and they, because they're inside, will have that much sitting proud outside of that. So it all fits together nicely, goes like that. So that much has got to protrude at the edge, so let's put it there. Make it slightly big. I always put a cross on the side that I don't want, so I've got to cut across here. And I have found the best way of doing this, the pencil lines will be hidden inside the groove, so square that off, make this going to be the full length of this. That's just the one cut I'm showing you because this length is fine at the moment. Yeah, and then let's cut along there and use the bandsaw just to cut down here, and I shall cut along here, so give me plenty of space to trim it down like that. I find the best way of cutting down to that line is to go to the sander, and then we can get it pre-tight. So I've trimmed this down so that it just fits inside there, and the end pieces fit in there just right, and they're quite straightforward to put together. That one in there, worth checking there's no pencil marks in the bottom, and that, if you turn it over this way, will fit together really nicely. And the only clamp you have to put on is sort of sideways this way to hold it all together, and we'll fill these holes in a moment. Right, and this third piece will be the one in the middle that goes in to hold the spoon. Deal with that in a moment. In fact, I'll deal with that now. And what I'm going to do is, it first of all needs to sit, because the lid, the flat of the lid, will have another piece on it to hold it in place. It's got to be a little bit low, but I do know that if that's the base, then I need to cut it across there and a half circle there. Okay, so that's going to be a complete circle. Just got to work out that it's got to be just there. Let's just make sure it's exactly in the center, and for that I shall mark it off with this gauge that way and that way. But finally, between those two marks and in the center, make a nice definite hole there. That's where the Forstner bit's got to go in. I think I'm using a 12mm Forstner bit over here. Come on, have a look. Oh, I forgot to mention the drill press is absolutely super. It goes perfectly vertical, square onto the cut, and you can check the depth very well. So this piece of machinery, very useful too, I suppose, and it works better if you plug it in. Let's do that. There we go. I've got some supports here because there's a very small piece. The only injury I've ever had, and quite serious, I cut my finger across here and it was on this machine with a forcener bit actually, so I'm going to keep my fingers well away from it. You live and you learn, unfortunately. Lovely. Now I can glue all these pieces together. I'll just take these squirt out a certain amount of this, then put some of this on the end, nice amount, there and there. I'll put the centerpiece with a spoon holder in a moment. Right, a generous amount, and then we can put that one on there, that one on there, line it up around the other end. The other one in. Get in there. Line those up. In fact, sometimes it's nice to push those in with another piece of wood, look. Get them nicely lined up. I'm going to sand that down, particularly when I plug these holes here, which I think look quite interesting. So let's just straighten that up again. That's good. Right, I shall clamp across here in a moment. Let's just put it there temporarily. But I do want to just pop that in there. I will confess something here. I did add a little bit on the bottom. I'd set it slightly too low. Right, so I'm going to put some glue on the bottom of this in particular. A little dab on the sides. I don't want any excess glue that comes out will be difficult. See this piece here? So I'm just eyeing up the centre, by the way. It's pretty good. So that looks fine. And if I give this a good squeeze in the middle, it'll hold it all in place well. You can go in with a brush. Get all the excess glue out. Right, just check this end again. That's nice and smooth. And that. Right, let's give that a good tighten. And the next job I can do is to fill these. And what I'm going to use is a contrasting piece of wood, like this. Take this end down to suitable size and just poke it in there. Poke it in there, glue it in, cut it off on both ends. So I've cut this piece down on the bandsaw, and I've put a slight taper on it. I've taken it to the sanding machine and just sanded it down, and it's on a slight taper, so if that one piece there doesn't fit really well, you can just sand the end down until you get to a slightly thicker piece, and then you'll be okay. So that looks pretty good, look. Right, so put a bit of glue in it, and this saw, this flush cut saw, very, very useful. That is pretty good. It will still need to be sanded down, of course. Right, so it doesn't quite fit in there, so just take it down a little bit, on the two edges, and now we're fine again. It's almost useful to just gently tap that in a little bit further, and then again then leave that to dry after done the other side as well. This hole is slightly bigger, so there's a little bit of a gap there, but not to worry, because if there's a bit of glue on there, and once you sand it down, particularly on the sander, all the sand dust, the sawdust, goes into the hole if you put some glue in, and it will solve its own problem. So all I've got to do now is double check, make sure everything's sat square and straight, and now just leave it. You're now going to ask me, John, how do you do those nice stripy tops? This is how you do it. You need to get a range of coloured woods, various bits and pieces knocking around. This is quite good because you can use up all the odd bits. This is quite a nice bit, but I think that's Badook. This is cedar wood. I think this is oak. I don't know what this is, what I've just made the sides with, so I'm going to put some of that in the top, which will look nice. You cut it to about 15mm wide. Now that width then becomes the height of the strip. So here's one I've made earlier, and that width, which is now about 7mm, was a lot bigger than that, but it means I can put it through the planer and cut it down, because it's all bits and pieces. And the other thing about it, use fairly long pieces so that when it goes into the planer, you've got a good length to work with. You need about 12 inches to slide in and out, otherwise a small piece is very difficult. It dips in, and I think call it skiping. It cuts a little groove in the top, which you really don't want. So you get all these pieces, cut them all down to, what do I say, about 15mm, which will be the width of the cut, and that'll be the height of the stripy top. There are 4 types of wood here. The red one is a Badook, some cedar, that's the short pieces, some oaks, and a mysterious piece. And now it's simply a matter of gluing them together and putting it through the planer and trimming it to size. Glue the whole up together, clamp it down with the clamps, and press the wood up against this bar of the clamp, and then you've got the back of this all level. And this is where you need a bit of leeway on this side, because you can see some of them are slightly smaller, but all that will be taken out when it goes through the planer. Well, here's the stripy top. Let's just take the clamps off that. I love this bit. Oh yes, it's get this into the planer now, and I'll leave these long pieces because they'll help the roller of the planer to work. Well, that's turned out really well. I'm very pleased with that. That one side is perfect. This one's, I can feel 1 or 2 little rough bits, but and there's a bit of a mark there, a Skype mark. So the underside of the box will be held in place by this little panel, and we will probably put that on the side which is the lesser of the two. So that will be the top, and that'll be underside. Now it's a matter of getting the body of the box and just sanding it down. So just here there's a slight hole, so I'm just going to get a dab of glue, pop it on there, like ointment look, and then we can pop it and you can see that's a whole lot better, and the other end is looking pretty good too. So I'm just going to go over this top edge once more, and then with a bit of sandpaper in my hand I will just take these very sharp edges off as well. Well, there's the body of the box, and we just got to trim the lid down to a suitable size. The first thing to do is just to take off that ropey edge. That's nice. Well, I've got a problem here because, let's put this light on for myself. If I go this way, that's not wide enough, and that way I'm going to lose a lot of the side. So I'm going to do something really cheeky, and I'm going to set it symmetrically but at an angle. So I'm going to mark all the way around here, and then put another piece just slightly bigger. Finally got it whittled down to size. I got the sled out and put it on the table saw, and I'm pleased that it is symmetrical, even though it's on a diagonal. Well, almost at an angle. Right, next thing to do is just to round off all these edges, and we can do that on the bandsaw. That was all going so well until it came apart. So I think we better take a break, stick that back together very carefully, and carry on later. Hello, back again. Where was I now? Yeah, I was about to sand this top, stripy top, done at a diagonal, which I'm quite pleased with. Just sanding it down, of course it fell apart. So this is 12 hours later, and it's been stuck back together. It's always a problem when you're doing stripy stuff, because all the joints have got to be well glued, and they weren't. So where have I got to? I'd sanded the edge on that and that. I'm just rounding off these sharp corners. So let me press on with that. And I will use one of the machine now, because since I've had to re-glue this top piece, I want to get that and get the pencil marks out. There's a little bit of glue on there, so I'm going to sand it down with the random sander. I think it's actually called an orbital sander. This is 120 grit. They're really good machines, this, because even when you turn them on, you can't hurt yourself, which is great. But it makes a glassy smooth finish on there. So final stages, here we go. There's the box made and done and finished. That's good. This is the piece which is going to go on the top of the lid, which will then hold it in place, and that fits in there rather nicely. Doesn't matter about this back piece, that's going to be glued on the top. That front face is nice, so that's got to be glued in there exactly in the middle. What could go wrong? I can almost show you straight away how it's going to look, and just check that fits okay. Right, I'm just double checking that that surface is going to be the top and that's the bottom, on account of the quality of the top is just that little bit better than the bottom piece. Pop that on there. Now usually if the stripes are going along, you can get that in the middle pretty good. It's got to be central, so if we press that on, the best way I find of checking is to stick it on there, turn it over, and then check that all the edges are good, and they are excellent. Right, now I'm just going to press that in there, let that dry. I say dry, it'll dry quite quickly. And then the next thing to do is to put the raw linseed oil on, which is my favourite finish for all my woodwork. These last few stages are the best bits. So this is the main box, and I'm going to put some raw linseed oil on. And just watch this. This is good, and this is where this wood really starts to jump out. Particularly, I must get this in focus for you. When you put on the end there, look at that. And those little fills there suddenly jump out. And this is a lovely wood. I wish I could remember what sort of wood it is. I've got a list on the wall over there of all the types of wood I've picked up over the last couple of years, but this one's really quite nice. If anybody can tell me what sort of wood it is, that'd be nice. I don't think I'll put it right inside, but there we have it, oiled. And I'll better do the inside at the bottom as well. Well, thanks for watching. Oh, it is a bit chilly. I must get back in and have lunch. At the end of this living postcard, I will just say we're still pulling our hair out trying to get the arrangements sorted for COVID tests to fly to the USA next week. And it's a nightmare because they've now changed it. You've got to have the test 24 hours before you fly. And there's thousands of people trying to do it. You're getting on the computer trying to book it, and it's just crazy. However, I think we're getting there, and it is a bit nuts. But oh, there's so many hoops to jump through. But it is quite true, to come in here and do some woodwork is a great distraction, and it is I'm going to write, when it stops raining, I'm going to write therapy session is now on for the workshop, or something along those lines above the doorway. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll meet again next time. Okay, bye bye. Just for the record, it's just midday on Monday the 6th of December, and according to me it's 4 degrees outside and it's cold and wet, and this is a very typical winter's day in Britain all the way through November, December, January, February, and this miserable cold wet is really just gets through to your bones.
My eyes were wide awake. I thought my dreams had all come true, but that was my first mistake. You played me like a fish on a line. You pulled the strings of my heart. You dipped my head in day by day. I wish we were apart. Then I said I had to leave, to go would be for the best. But you just dug your clothes in deep, I didn't know what was next. I told you clearly to your face as we walked down by the lake. I turned away, you pushed me in, that was my last mistake. You played me like a fish on a line. You pulled the strings of my heart. You dipped my head in day by day. I wish we were apart.